Hello and welcome everyone to another great webinar in the Watermark Masterclass series for 2025. For those of you I haven't met, I'm Alex Brown, a partner in the Watermark Interim Executive Practice, and I am joined today by all of the interim team to welcome you. We have had the great privilege to be able to host some amazing and well-received webinars over the past 5 years on a variety of current and relevant topics. And we thank most sincerely the guest presenters who have provided practical and actionable advice. We thank them all for sharing their wisdom and expertise. If you missed any of those webinars, please feel free to watch the recordings available on our website. Today's webinar topic is very timely. The latest research from Forbes tells us that the number of CEO exits in America in January 2025 was the highest ever recorded, a trend that has been increasing over the last 5 years. How often does this result in a wealth of knowledge and experience walking out the door? As a leader, have you hoarded your knowledge and authority, or have you disseminated it across your team? Would your colleagues characterize you as a control freak? Does every decision need to cross your desk before it is actioned? In this session, we discuss how shifting your approach can result in a more adaptable, engaged, and high-performing team. For today's presentation on the expansive topic of leadership challenges and building a growth mindset, I have the great pleasure of introducing you to Leanne Warner, an expert in this field. Our guest speaker, Leanne, is an inspiring and experienced leader, a former CEO and board chair in the for-purpose sector, mentor, facilitator, and coach. Leanne is passionate about helping organizations and individuals navigate through change by encouraging them to challenge their perspectives and thereby fostering a growth mindset. Our hope today is for you to walk away feeling inspired and motivated, to start recognizing which mindset you are in at different times and start thinking differently. So if you leave us with 2 or 3 practical takeaways, realistic tips and advice, then we will have met our objective. A little housekeeping before we get started. Today's presentation will run for around 45 to 60 minutes, with the opportunity to pose questions throughout using either the chat box or the Q&A box. Please ensure your options in those boxes are switched to visible to panelists and all participants, so everyone can see your questions and discussions. We are very happy to answer as many questions as possible throughout, and we might have some time for Q&A at the end. This session, like all in our series, will be recorded and available to view via our website. Now, over to you, Leanne.
Lovely. Thanks, Alex. And good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to see people coming in from all parts of the country and people sounding pretty keen, which is always wonderful to have you in a positive emotional state. Very much looking forward to spending the next hour with you. And yeah, let's get underway. For me, it's really important to understand what mood people are in. How are you feeling this morning as you start this session at 11. Some of you will have started very early. Some of you might just be commencing your day with this particular webinar. So I'd love you to enter into the chat for me. How are you feeling this morning? This is not about what are you thinking or what do you like? It's literally, I'd like an emotional word, please, to describe how you're feeling. So just help me out. Pop that in the chat for me. Oh, I love it that James is already into Jim's an 11 out of 10. So that's awesome. I'm feeling excited as well for our session today. And also I've got some really interesting learning discussions and meetings today. So I have started my day excited. Oh, I love that. You're on your second coffee, Karen. You're at 10 out of 10. That's always nice. Positive, curious, challenge. Please feel free if you're not feeling in the positive spectrum of emotion. You're very welcome to share that. That's equally as valid for you to be in a situation where you're feeling a little bit more on the less desirable emotional space. Life's good, happy. Thanks, George. Ready to go. So that's great. Oh, and I was in Melbourne at the weekend, Jacinta, and the autumnal period in Melbourne is sensational. I just think it's wonderful. I'm coming to you from Sydney today, and relaxed and chilled David Nice, so a lower energy, positive emotions. So I love it. People are referencing coffee, aren't they, to sort of say, you know, the best that you can without your coffee, which is interesting. So welcome. It's good to know you're all coming from different places. You're coming under different emotional conditions. You're all sort of prepped for learning, which is excellent because you've chosen to attend. So that is always a wonderful start. So I have a question for you to just kick things off. I'm really curious to understand a little bit about what's been going on for you in more recent times. So I'm going to pose a poll, and I'd invite you to contribute to this poll when it comes up. So over the past 18 months, when recruiting new leaders to your organisation in more senior roles, how have you chosen to select the candidate? Is it somebody with sector experience, or is it somebody with little or no sector experience, but with some transferable skills? And of course, I appreciate you may have recruited many roles and you may have had a variety of different outcomes, but what would be your natural propensity? And if you haven't recruited any roles so far this year, then just think back to the last roles that you did recruit. We'll just give you a moment to complete that poll. I'm obviously keen on the results, but I'm going to share a little bit more about why I'm keen to understand that later. There we go. I think we've got the response. Thanks very much, Ali, for that. So that's really interesting. So about 60% of you have said that you would choose people, have chosen people with little or no sector experience, but with transferable skills. And then about 40% of you have said that you have chosen people with sector experience. So it's a little bit weighted towards choosing people who don't have the sector experience. I'd be interested in the chat if you could, one of those people, just to indicate why that might be. So just share in the chat, was it that there wasn't any candidate that had the sector experience and that was your only option, or was it an active choice that you made? Perfect. All right. So let's now, I love to feel energized. As I said to you, I already am feeling energized this morning and excited, but I'd like us to get really integrated and active in this session today. So I'm going to give you an option to complete some activities. So this is where we'll really get buzzing, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I invite you to come on the journey with me. I'm going to share with you a choice of activities, and I'd like you to choose one that you would like to participate in, please. You're going to choose which one of these activities you would like to participate in, and I'd like you to pop in the chat why. So you're going to choose the number. I've got 4 options. You're going to choose the number, and then you're going to also explain why you've chosen the particular group that you've chosen. So nice to just hear, just to recap that, you know, there's for example, in Tassie, there's an active choice market to find the best candidate in Tassie. And some of you are saying, Karen and Jyoti, you're saying that you really appreciate the fresh ideas as being useful, and Kirsty, you're drawing on a diverse point of view, which is really nice. So, and generalists have a lot to offer. Thanks, Jane, for that. So here we go to activities, and these I have purposely developed for you, and I hope you're going to enjoy them. So Group one, you're going to be involved in an improvisation skit, and I'm choosing 3 words for you to work with. The words are airport, purple, Great Dane. Right? These are Great Dane's 2 words, but either way, airport, purple, Great Dane. There's going to be an improv skit that you'll be involved in. Group 2, I have some maths and logic problems for you. These are actually really quite complex. I have to say, I've known some people who are very capable in the maths and logic space, and a couple of them at this point, they haven't been able to solve. So if you join that group, I'm really hopeful that you might be the people who could who could crack those. Group 3, I'm looking at you to write some really unique lyrics about leadership, because what we're doing is going to create our own song about leadership, and I'll let you use the tune of Fernando, okay? Because I think most people know it. We're Aussies, we love ABBA, we're ready. You know, we can do that one. And then the final group is going to sort of film. We'll just do this using the capability that we have online here to film a discussion, a panel discussion about leadership as it occurred during 2020. So if it's incredible to think it was 5 years ago, but if you can appreciate that time period and you'd like to make comment on that, then if you could please join the Group 4 team. So let me know which group you'd like to be a part of and also why, because they're very varied. I've tried to keep it as broad as I can so everybody can make their choice. So the improv skit group, the maths and logic problem group, the team that are going to write some lyrics, and then I would, like you to sing. I don't know how harmonious you're going to be. I'm actually going to a pub choir tonight, so I'll get to practice my version of that. But it's a singing opportunity, and then the last one we're going to pretend to be panelists and people filming as well.
Well,
Good idea.
Leanne, it looks like group 2 and 4 are slightly, heavier than groups 1 and 3. Three is becoming a bit more popular, but group 1 is definitely lacking.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. That's a bit disappointing. Oh, good on you, Jane. I might see you at the pub choir tonight. Okay. So right. Well, it really this works so much better. We've got 50 people online. It works better if we can have an even spread. So could I ask some people who are in other groups? What you're saying, 2 and 4, Alex, are a little
Yeah,
bit
2 and 4 are overpopulated.
overpopulated. All right.
One
So
and three are looking a bit shy.
all right, excellent. So could somebody please from groups 2 or 4 jump into either a 1 or a 3 for me? In particular, we need some 1 participants. I don't know why improvisation isn't popular, but it would be good if you could do that. So if you could move across and just if you capture that in the chat as well, then Alex will be able to just check. We've got people behind the scenes here who are monitoring
Yeah.
how we're doing in terms of the.
Thanks, Camille. Thanks, Jennifer and Alyssa have moved into 1, and a couple have moved into 3. We're probably a bit more even now, Leanne.
Okay, all right. So that's looking about right. All right, perfect. So you're committed to your group now. So I'd like you to imagine. I'll put you through now the next series of instructions so you understand what you're going to do. This is going to take about 5 to 10 minutes, but all of you will be participating in front of each other. So can you just? I'll give you one more chance to either stay in your group or move, because this is kind of the commitment I need from you at this point in time. So. 10 seconds to shift or to stay where you are. All right.
Looks like we have that nailed now.
Okay, perfect. So that's where we're going. All right. So I've actually been a little bit tricky with you. I'm not actually going to be engaging you in any of these activities, but I am interested in how you felt as a result of that exercise. What was running through your mind? What did you anticipate? I saw some comments coming through from people. I noticed that, a few of you said, well, I'll join group 3 because I like singing and I can write lyrics. Great. So there was an opportunity for somebody to be able to do that. Another person said, well, I'm not going anywhere near those other groups. I'll go into group 4 because I can't do maths and I can't sing or I can't act. Okay, so that was part of the reason. And group 4 was an area of expertise for Jennifer, which was great, and your singing wasn't ideal. And group 4, Jim wanted to go into because, he is faced with real life challenges managing an international team. So he thought that really could be useful to debrief on the 2020 piece. So I want to understand again, back to the feelings piece. I want to know emotionally, because our body is such an interesting conduit for the data that comes, because emotions are just data. So I want to know what happened. Did some of you feel that gut reaction? Did some of you get sweaty palms? Did some of you get a little bit, sort of giggly over what was the potential and what on earth was I going to do with airport and purple and Great Danes? Yeah, I'd like to just hear in the chat what you were thinking and how you were feeling. So Shiva said she really enjoys a good challenging assignment, and the idea of maths and logic appealed because you like to do structured problems. You were nervous, Jennifer, about singing in front of people, and you did go with a strength, rather than a weakness, which is interesting. Christine, you're enthusiastic and up for Fernando. Thank you. Definitely not up for improvisation, though. And it's interesting, Karen, you chose the option that was really going to be the most comfortable for you, and you love a good maths problem, so that sort of makes sense. And And
Yeah.
Catherine, interesting, I chose the least worst option for me. So it could have been that you didn't want to do any of them, but fundamentally you were choosing one that was interesting. And thank you, Fiona. I really liked that you were frustrated by how unclear it was. Because hang on, what's this got to do with this webinar? I don't sign up to do any of this dumb stuff that Leanne is anticipating that I need to do. So, and some of you just felt a little bit excited or uncomfortable. So thank you for sharing that. The reason why I'm doing that is because we really are going to explore today that idea of mindset, where it kicks in, how it enables us or in fact creates barriers for us ongoing. And so I really like this Maya Angelou quote because I think it's pretty apt that, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, then change your attitude to it. Or my kind of take on that is change your mindset as it relates to that particular example. Some of you will know the work of the amazing Carol Dweck. She had a seminal work in 2006, a book called Mindset, which really, and she's an incredible researcher and a professor at Stanford. But what I love about Carol Dweck's work is it really enabled people to identify with the fact that there are ways that we think that can be attributed to what she calls a fixed mindset and also a growth mindset. And what's really key is effort can be one of the real contributors to whether you are sitting in a fixed mindset or in a growth mindset, as was evidenced in that quick exercise that we just did. It can be that you sat there quite resolutely saying, no, I'm not moving out of my group because it would take more effort to go to the other group and I would feel less comfortable. So I like her quote there that effort is one of those things that gives meaning to life. It means you care about something, that something is important to you and you are willing to work for it. And I know in a ad hoc exercise that isn't necessarily apparent, but in your day-to-day life, there will be things that you're prepared to shift for. And it's interesting to know that she has acknowledged, as has many of her research teams, and I'll talk about one in particular, Mary Murphy, in a moment, that none of us have an ultimate fixed mindset or growth mindset. We have things we are fixed about and things that we are growth about. So please don't just anticipate labeling yourself as fully one or the other. It's possible for you to even have a fixed mindset about a particular thing and then through effort enable it to become more of a growth mindset. So this is the exciting part. So thanks. Kara's just put in the chat that that's the name of the book there. It's Carol Dweck's mindset book, if you're interested to follow up on that. And she's done many TED Talks and things as well that you can have a look at. So I'd really like to hear from you. I'm just going to tell a personal story if you can indulge me in this. I'm interested in people's personal growth mindset challenges. So before we talk about the workplace, I'm interested to understand what you may or may not have done as it relates to trying something new in your personal life. So the visual for me is personal because last year I was very fortunate and had the opportunity to travel through Sardinia and Sicily. And rather than choosing to go on a tour, I set myself the goal of driving around both of those magnificent islands and being able to really explore and enjoy all of the elements that were afforded me through driving. I did go with my husband, and probably 15 years prior to that, we had driven in Italy again, but he did all of the driving on that occasion and I didn't because I didn't feel comfortable. So this time I set myself the goal. So I still remember, as if it was yesterday, my trepidation in the car rental place. I'd had to get a bigger car because typical me, I had a large suitcase or two large suitcases, so we couldn't get the Fiat Bambino that might have felt like it was a fun little Tonka toy. So we had a big car and I was there and I was trying to sort of imagine, my goodness, how am I going to get out of here? Just the rental car park, let alone getting out onto the motorways in the towns around the various places that we would need to navigate. And I literally just started to practice. I was like a little kid with a shopping trolley in the car park, running around, being able to say, okay, if I need to turn right, how do I manage that? When I get to a roundabout, how do I manage that? And I got in this car. So the nice thing is I'm still here. I did take out full comprehensive insurance on the car for what it's worth in case there was any issues. And I was very fortunate because I think because I really wanted to see if I could master this and how well I would do. I gave it my all. I put in the effort, and within probably 2 or 3 days, as much as I was still nervous, I started to enjoy myself, and I found the learning very enjoyable. And so that 3-week period was some of the most memorable and enjoyable for me. And look, we had lots of laughs. I got stuck in very small cobbled laneways that I had to back, sort of 10 car lengths and manage all of this stuff anyway. We had a lot of fun, and no one was harmed in the exercise. So I'd like to hear from you just in the chat. What are some of your personal growth mindset challenges that you've taken on at any time in your life where you may have had potentially a fixed mindset and you shifted across to a growth mindset in order to take on that challenge? Just take a moment to pop it in the chat.
Leanne, your story is interesting because I'm about to go to America and I'm feeling exactly the same way about driving a car
That's it. That's it.
as you have just described.
Well, I hope you have the same experience that I did when it starts to flow and you feel more confident and you enjoy it and you think, wow, I'm really, our brains have so many fantastic neural pathways and they're very plastic, as you will have heard. So the more that you train that plasticity in your brain, the better that it works for you. So it's really fantastic to opt into these challenges where you can. So I'm loving some of these opportunities for a growth mindset, working as an expat in different countries. Thank you, Chris. Competing, go you, Jim. That's great, in Taekwondo on the world stage. That's very impressive. Ocean swimming, Fiona, thank you. That's my passion as well. You've twice moved countries, Gav. Good on you. Mountain biking, Catherine, exactly. There's a degree of danger in that, but there's also exhilaration. So if you tackle it, you take it on. Thank you, Donna. You sound like you've done all these fantastic new challenges and over the age of 50, which is equally exciting. Working in other lands. Thank you, Karen. Playing tennis for the first time, Linda. See, I like that, Janice, that you were terrified of heights. So that's the fixed mindset. I can't, it's going to be really hard. And then you basically took it on and you did the Sydney Bridge walk. And I've done that and I do know that is very challenging. So congratulations to you. You're on a gold course after 15 years on a golf course. Fantastic. An acting course. See, look at all of these. These are fantastic. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing in that. Camille was performing at a Greek festival a couple of weeks ago in front of thousands of people dancing Greek. My goodness, how terrifying would that be? But you took it on and I bet you felt pretty exhilarated after that. So I invited some of you here asking, are you a bit of a control freak? Do you like to be the person who's running the ship and in control? So I've got a poll on this and I'm interested to hear what people say about why they may embark on taking control of things. So if you're a person who likes to control things, help me to understand, what is your reason for this? What's the key? Is it about saving time, minimizing errors, helping your team not to get overloaded, I'm the most knowledgeable and experienced, so therefore it's incumbent on me to be able to run this? Or is it possibly a mixture of some of these or all of them, in fact? Just let me know your thoughts on that. Not using control as a dirty word. I'm just interested in where it comes from and what your mindset is telling you under those conditions. Okay. Just give it a couple more seconds, please, Ali, and then we'll close that down. Okay, let's see the results, shall we? So it's interesting. So we've got about 8% of people that feel that it's saving time. It seems the majority of you are usually taking control because you're the most knowledgeable and experienced. And then other times it could be all of the above. Some of you are saying, well, I don't like this decision by committee notion. I'd rather just, if it comes to me and I'm the ultimate decision maker, that would be far easier. For some, it might minimize errors and time, as we said. So yes, thank you for sharing. So I think I'm seeing there that most of you who do identify as taking control are doing it because you feel that you're the most knowledgeable and experienced. So, so that's good information. And I think it dovetails well into, I want to share with you just quickly what the idea of a fixed mindset may look like and then we'll talk about what the growth mindset looks like. And this is in individuals, but I'm going to share with you how this transcends to become a culture of growth or a culture of fixed within your organizations. So some of this you might identify with. It's linked to the way that you might have shown up. Maybe you've said at some point, oh my gosh, I'm so hopeless at. Could be technology, could be anything, or you observe other people very obsessed with something as you would describe it. Oh my gosh, they're so obsessed with Instagram. What's with that? Or you might say, gosh, I've tried it. It's just not my thing. I'm not good at that. You might also observe that you'd say to somebody, look, you're so much better at that than me. Could you please just do that? You'd do it so much quicker and easier. So you defer to another person. You might also look at other people and see that particular generation, you might cast a judgment on that. Are they cocky? Are they lazy? Are they, oh, you're the technology generation, so it's easy for you? Are you making those observations? And also to that point we just noted in the poll, it could be that you really feel you haven't got time to walk people through things because it's easier and quicker for me to do it myself. Okay, so these are examples of what a fixed mindset sounds like. Now, we recognize this man. I'm in no way comparing people who feel they would like to take control with this particular person, but we do recognize him. And often status and enhanced and increased status for an individual can be linked to a fixed mindset. So I thought it might interest you to just hear, and you might have heard this, that when Elon Musk took over Twitter, when he took over Twitter, he fundamentally said to, is then called Twitter, it's now called X, obviously. He sent an email to his employees, and this is what it said. This was his very first email to employees. Going forward, to build a breakthrough Twitter 2.0 and succeed in an increasingly competitive environment, we will need to be extremely hardcore. Only exceptional performance will constitute a passing grade. Employees then had until 5 p.m. to pretty much say whether they were on board or they were not on board. And I think it's in the history books, we now know what happened, that over 50% of people chose to resign as a result of that email. So that was total control being exerted in that particular situation. As it relates to status, I want you to know it's cool for you to use your growth mindset to experiment with how you respond. If you were in that situation and somebody really exerted their fixed mindset on you, what would you do under those conditions? It could be that you have a very orientated growth mindset yourself, so that just wouldn't work with you, and let alone the values alignment. Also, I want you to be aware that status linked to fixed mindset can show up in the form of acronyms or jargon, or even being, tonally inappropriate. You might be sarcastic with people, and that could be a way of, dropping their status and raising your status. I also can acknowledge that if you want to practice being less status orientated, then ask great questions. Remember things about people, really give others praise and let them help you. Because if you ask for help, it's incredible how that can equalize a relationship with a person. Particularly you as senior leaders already have your own high status that you're just by sheer merit of the fact that you're in the roles that you're in. And so really, as much as vulnerability might be difficult, it's great if you can practice using it in order that you will receive it back from other people. And this is what happens. And I absolutely agree with you. I hope I'm saying your name correctly if I call you Yoti. Control to me is context dependent, and that's absolutely true. And it's I don't want anyone to be offended that I'm likening you in any way to Elon Musk, but I think it's a nice standout example. This is what growth mindset sounds like. So if you've ever heard this come out of your mouth, then this would be your growth mindset at work. Well, how hard can it be? Some of you said this with the singing. Oh, I quite like singing, or I like ABBA, I'm going to give that one a go. Thanks for the feedback. If somebody gives you critical feedback, you say, thank you, it's helpful. I'm really pleased to receive it. You might say to someone, could you walk me through it? I'm not very proficient in how to set the parameters or the formulas for the spreadsheet, but I'd love it if you could show me, and then I'll practice and you can watch me do it and tell me if I'm doing it right. Also, you might also say things like, I've never tried it, so I'm going to give it a go. So this would be your growth mindset. So what really demarcates us here is that if there's a challenge, it's something that we will absolutely aim to tackle it. There's my road again. I'm driving on that road, so I'm tackling it. If there are obstacles, I'm going to persist. So even if I, didn't park very well, or I got tooted, which I did many a time by other drivers, I persevered through that. That the effort was part of the reason that we were leading ourselves. I'm not saying I'm a master, but towards mastery. Carol Dweck talks a lot about mastery as being linked to effort. And also that we acknowledge critical feedback will help us to learn. So unless you put yourself out there, you're probably not out of your comfort zone, and therefore not getting the feedback on ways and means of doing things better. I really like the insight that somebody shared with me, that if you're not listening to different voices around you, then you probably have a bit of a blind spot, and you might be making the same decisions that you made 5 or 10 years ago because you're literally sitting in your comfort space. And so the other ideas are not as prevalent. So those of you who did recruit people who didn't have sector experience, but did have the opportunity to bring in their new ideas, their observations, their balcony view on the organization, and you said you enjoyed that, that's again where you're really embracing the idea of taking on a growth mindset. And also you're really celebrating the success of those people. So when new people join our organizations who are coming with new ways of thinking, we really want to celebrate those people and take inspiration from them. And so too people who shift during periods of immense growth, which many of you might have experienced in your organizations, just to see people who found it very hard initially and then they start to get their groove. That's really nice to see that. And it is important, Jason, that's right, to see others' success as something that we journey towards, and we really want to make sure that they are stronger contributors over time, and they will be if you encourage them to be. So I'd love you to adopt, Carol Dweck teaches this, your next favorite word is yet. So I am not a good singer yet. I am challenged by maths problems, but at this point, so I'm not really comfortable yet. So just keep it. I have it around my computer screen. I know that it's there, so that if I hear my fixed mindset voice, I can use it. So in the chat, just give me some opportunity to understand, are there things that you have tried? We'll just note them down where you may have had a fixed mindset. Could be earlier in your career, could be quite current. Maybe you've had to, as we just said before, you've found that the talent isn't there that has sector experience, and so you've needed to take some transferable skills from people that might come in, and they may be either underqualified, a little bit overqualified for the role. They may have done a component of the job description, but not all of it. Where do you hear your fixed mindset, and where have you adopted a growth mindset in the workplace? I'll give you a minute to just type. I think it's really fascinating. What about you, Alex? Any fixed mindset or growth mindset?
Oh, you're making me, yeah, whenever it's not really at work, it happens in the evening, and you get that Apple update that says that they're going to do a update on your phone overnight. My heart just sinks, because basically I know that in the morning I'm not going to be able to work my phone the way that I would like or have been working my phone, and I'm going to have to learn some new twist and turn, and inevitably in my head it's a downgrade, not an upgrade. So
Yeah.
that is always my fixed mindset, messages from Apple.
That's right. And isn't it interesting? You have that visceral feeling, oh, dread. No, this is going to
Yeah.
be terrible. I've got to learn tomorrow morning. I've got a busy morning. I've got to learn what the new update's all about. And Gavin's mentioned as well, his might kick in when it comes to technology. It might be something that you literally think that's the tricky stuff there. I'm taking on AI full head on. I'm pretty much aiming to use it. I've called my chat GPT Gavin, and Gavin and I chat every day. He says, hello, Leanne. I say, hello, Gavin. And we talk, and I make sure that I identify with some work that Gavin can help me with. And in that way, I'm getting more practiced at using that. I like that, Alyssa. I'm a growth mindset. I am growth mindset with growth mindset people, and tend to be fixed mindset with fixed mindset people. So that is really fascinating when that happens, because we can slot into that realm. And it's really nice if you can use your growth mindset to try and encourage people away from their fixed mindset. And Carolyn's saying she's not good at maths and statistics, but then, you got a high score in your psych degree. So yeah, that's you telling yourself a story.
I
And
think it's interesting, Leanne, that people are recognizing which mindset they're in.
Yes, I do
And
too. Someone like Christopher's saying he's worked with it for a long time. So once you're practitioners and you understand this, it's more for people who are, this might be news to you, may not have really identified with this, but I'd like you to sort of focus. What's key and really exciting, and I want to spend some time here, is the fact that really recent research, there's a lady called Mary Murphy, and I so admire her work. She's actually a PhD student originally of Carol Dweck's, but she's taken on, she's a phenomena, and in 2024 published an excellent book called Cultures of Growth, and which is a culmination of a whole lot of research that she's done, and it's very current, and I really invite you to get involved in that. She said it's all very well that we think of individuals as having a fixed or growth mindset in certain areas at certain times, but what does that do for a culture? And in particular, she really discovered through the research that even if you just have two people together, between you, you have a culture of growth or a fixed mindset culture. So think about that. That's your one-on-ones. That's your huddles. That's you doing a walk the floor. That's you, sitting in a board meeting. That's anything that you participate in. You're going to find yourself having the opportunity to influence the culture. And it's very contagious. So identify that around your own team dynamic, because also it's possible to have micro climates and cultures within your organization. So there might be that the IT team are really demonstrating a culture of growth, but the finance team are in a fixed culture at this point in time. So it's interesting to then reflect, how does that impact me as a leader? How does it impact my team members? Because it might be that if you're part of an executive team, for example, you might find that your team's very dynamic and you get things done and you're prepared to take risk and challenge and open things up. But other teams, you might find, gosh, we have to drag them kicking and screaming to try and get them to see that there are other options available to them.
Leanne's an interesting comment from Karen here saying, sometimes you need to limit the extent of your growth mindset to enable each change to be embedded.
It's a
So
really, yeah,
by
it's a
one.
key. It's a great, great comment that you make, Karen. That's very, very true. So I think it's important that we don't overdo it, because it can actually just be a little bit negligent, and it can feel frivolous that, oh yes, let's take that on and that on and that on. This will overwhelm. And I was reading recently that at the moment we digest as much data in a day as individuals as 175 newspapers worth of information. So can you imagine back in the day when people were sitting on their farm and they might get a newspaper once a week or once a day, and they might, savor that and enjoy to absorb that data, and they might hear a little bit about what the neighboring families were doing, and that'd be it. Whereas we are inundated. So Karen's point is really valid there. So the other thing that might interest you is that Mary Murphy have found through really extensive, many years, nearly 10 years worth of research, that there are some predictive situations where we jump into fixed and into growth mindsets. And this is where the ripple effect happens in our cultures. And you will identify with some of these because I gave you the mini task of it this morning at the beginning, where we anticipate being evaluated by others. So some of you having to sing or do an improv in front of people, that was a moment where you might have jumped back to fixed. Also where high effort is required. Oh my gosh, the whole thought of having to do, that, or to go on a bridge climb walk, or to do something in the workplace that would challenge me, is going to be just too much on top of everything else I've got. And also where we receive feedback, she really identified that we are emotionally impacted by critical or constructive feedback. Every person is. Our amygdala has a little hijack and says, ouch, that feels quite challenging to hear that I'm not doing as well as I could. So that's the kind of thing that can make you more resolute about not going out and doing that again, or saying, how interesting, I really welcome that feedback and I'd like to learn from it. And the other, as we've described before, is the success of others. So you can either see them as a worry, a competitor, a cocky person, somebody who's not to be trusted, or you may take inspiration from them. So again, just a question for you to take away. How and where do you find yourself triggered? Thanks, Jason. So you're finding that you agree with that, but it's also interesting to recognize those who just want to do what they do, and those that are not interested in broadening their perspective. And also understanding that the scary perspective can be a difference against what they are comfortable doing with themselves. Absolutely. So that's what I'm saying. You becoming a good voyeur, getting on the balcony, observing your team. This is powerful stuff, but you can lead a culture that is preferred. So I've described the culture of growth, but the culture of genius is really quite the alternative. Mary Murphy calls it the culture of genius as opposed to the culture of growth. So this is where we sit in our resolute place. So it is this fixed mindset culture, and it does exist, and it can exist a lot in the community service sector, or where we're highly regulated. There are risks there, there are real life consequences if things don't go well, because the regulations are pretty clear to us. But we've got to be mindful as leaders not to bestow a lot of praise only on the few that might have that real expertise and knowledge. They become a bit like a rock in a river, where you have to move around them a lot, and they're so important that we just can't move. All the decisions have to flow through this particular person, for example. And they're quite rarefied environments. And Alex made a good point at the beginning, where she said, if people leave, you've got a big giant hole there, because information is kept quite close by those people. So it could also be that newer team members are a little bit devalued. So to the point at the beginning, where some of you said you took on people with transferable skills and non-sector experience, we can't discount the contribution those people can make, because they may be able to add a lot of value. But if we have others who sit in a fixed mindset position, and the culture is permeating that and becoming more of a genius culture, it's limiting. It's limiting for the organization. So what I'd like to share with you is the identity that we could, the fixed mindset culture, that genius culture, is more about like a leadership, a leader. This is too many L's in one sentence. Ladder leadership. So we're heading straight up. So the decisions must come through. And that with a ladder, you can only get one person up. There'll be somebody at the top. The person that was on the bridge climb, you'll remember this, somebody at the top, and then the rest of you follow up, and you come up and down. And so the data is very much one way. The term ladder leadership actually is a real leadership term, and it can mean, like the visual there, that we invite other ladders and we hold hands and we nurture and we encourage. But you'll notice there's still somebody that is at the top of that particular pyramid. And that's where knowledge gets stymied. It gets hoarded sometimes. It becomes a very slow process, because we need to go up. We're not, it's very linear to do that.
I think we see a lot of that in the for-purpose sector, Leanne.
Yes, from my experience, I do too, Alex. So, and I work, regularly with leaders in leadership forums on this stuff. So I observe it. The alternative is the great culture of growth, where you could enable people to continue to develop and to contribute, and everybody has that opportunity. And I'm not saying we need to make sure everyone from the receptionist through to the CEO and the board chair are all involved in every decision, to that point about committee leadership and committee decision making. But if you've got great policies and structures, and you can really support the people around you to participate, it will enable those strong norms around innovation and collaboration. It becomes much more than just a wish list or a values statement, where a lot of people have collaboration or innovation in their values, and it becomes really true, because mistakes are then going to be mined for their learning and their understanding, as opposed to it being a problem. So this I like to refer to as latticed leadership. So less about the let's go all up to the leader. If we have if you were my CEO, Alex, and I was in a position where I was feeling challenged and I didn't quite know what to do, and I was an executive team member, I would use my peers. And peer coaching is something I've been practicing with leaders for 10 years, and I absolutely love it, because I watch people flourish in peer leadership conditions where they can use that latticed approach. I'm actually not going to go up. I'm going to go sideways, and I'm going to talk to my colleague, and they might have some learning and experience or ideas that are from their team, and then we bring it. So when you actually going to an ultimate decision maker, be it the board or a CEO, you may actually have a really well-versed piece of decision making that has already happened. So you're making a recommendation, as opposed to taking everything up that one ladder. So yes,
Ultimate collaboration, taking into account everybody's perspective. It's great. It's a great term.
That's right. I think it's really good. And thank you, Carolyn. Simon Sinek, one of my all-time favorite people, has just come up with that awesome quote: "We can only truly be in charge when we are willing to let others take charge." And that is, just crystallizing exactly what we were talking about there. So yes, I call it lattice leadership because it looks like this. It's this verdant, flourishing, amazing, just joyful place where people can learn from each other, and then we can make collective decisions. So I really like that.
It's made
Uh,
me think of something someone once said to me about, you've got a good head of a team when they go on annual leave or they're away and nothing goes wrong.
Exactly, exactly. Isn't it wonderful to feel redundant, to feel even that somebody's made a better decision than you would have made? That thank goodness I could actually go and ask other people and say, I don't have the answers for this. I really am not sure what to do. And that's where being in a latticed environment, in a peer-enabled environment, is such a good place to be. And it builds capacity and competence, and it builds confidence. And so that's really what we're hopeful that we will be able to continue to see. Um, and that's, Jim, you're saying, and that's why we're looking for work now, is to be able to enable that to be the case. So I find I'm going to. This is borrowed from Adam Grant, another one that I'm a fangirl of. So Adam Grant, incredible thought leader, who has a new book out recently at the beginning of this year called Hidden Potential. He talks about the simple sea sponge, and the humble sea sponge was around 500 million years ago when everything else went big boom, and basically, the dinosaurs were made extinct. All, I think it was something like 98% of life on Earth was decimated. The sea sponge was there. The sea sponge continues to be there. It's actually an animal, not a plant. But what it does incredibly well is that it absorbs nutrients from its environment and it filters them, and then it is able to continue to adapt. So I'm not necessarily saying that we're all going to be imminent sea sponges, but even if you took that as inspiration to say, wouldn't it be cool if I could actually absorb, because we're so full of, as I said, data and information and change and adversity potentially in our work lives, and challenge and opportunity. It's really good to just be able to see it that way. This is another thing we haven't really got the time for, because I really want to take some questions from you. But how is your mindset contributing to your risk appetite? It is really, the two are very integrated, because if you're following more of a fixed mindset approach, you will tend to be more preventative, and you will really harness the stronger risk appetite, and you'll be influencing that in your teams and across your board. If you have a growth mindset, you may lean into risk. And people, as much love him or hate him, but Jeff Bezos at Amazon was very good at saying, no, we are going to make some mistakes here, but we're also going to embrace some innovation, and we're going to try some things and see what we do there. So thanks, Caroline's put Adam Grant up on the chat there. So I want to take you to a couple of quick tips before I then invite you to ask some questions. So if you haven't already seen this lady before, Mel Robbins, amazing, great podcaster, excellent new book as well out at the moment, The Let Them Theory. And it really is about, it's actually, the story behind it is fun, and I won't take time to share it, but do go online, either listen to her talk to it or be able to read the book, because it's very funny. It comes from her teenagers taught her about this. So tips to help you grow, and I'm going to borrow a little bit from Adam Grant again, that I want you to prioritize your own growth above your ego where possible. And ego, we all have it. As leaders, we kind of rely on it because it does help us to feel confident and to make good decisions. But he talks to the comment from Sheila Hine, which was, I want to get an A+ in how I took the D-. So if somebody's providing feedback to you, please take it on board. And so too the amazing Brené Brown has great scope around invite your critics into the stadium. Don't keep them at bay. Don't ignore them. Don't imagine that they're not there. There will be, hopefully, on this webinar, critics of what it is we're talking about today, and I welcome your input because it's great to have that. And if you know you have perfectionistic tendencies, they're going to get in the way of that growth. So some of you who said, look, I tend to take control because I'm the most knowledgeable and experienced, so therefore it works. It just makes things easier. It absolutely does. You know, having a growth culture is more turbulent. You know, it's more rigorous and more challenging because more people are inputting, but it actually is better for the longer term success of the organization and for the people in it. Secondly, I want you to find your diamonds in the rough. I want you to talk to the people who are the naysayers or the people with a different opinion, or even people who maybe haven't been successful and have sat in that fixed mindset. Give them a second chance, enable them, encourage them, be able to try and shape them. Because as we know, the raw carbon isn't much, but once it's mined and polished, it can be sensational. So in this talent short market, please try and find people you can enable into a growth mindset. And please try and normalize failure where you can. I've put the big red button there because there are fatal flaws that we can't undertake. I understand that, but I'd love it if you could celebrate when we have mistakes in your organization that everyone can learn from. And they may be technically specific. It could be in your aged care business, and it may actually work equally as valuably in your early learning or your disability frameworks. It's mapping those mistakes across and being able to learn from them. So please identify what your risk appetite is and how you can lean into some of those normalizing of failure. And finally, I've put in Mike Cannon-Brooks as the photo there because he is a self-confessed person who suffers with imposter syndrome. The good news is it's not a debilitating disease. It's something we can all survive and we can thrive utilizing our imposter syndrome as fuel. So Adam Grant's a real advocate for this and believes in it, and I absolutely do too, that if you persist through feeling uncomfortable and feeling challenged, you will get better. And this lattice leadership approach will let others coach you. It will let other people, help you, and you will feel just far more vibrant under those conditions. So it's really about dialing up your curiosity and maybe leaning into this as either something you already practice and are a practitioner of, or if you're not, something you could try. So I know that's a lot of data in a short period of time, but I would love to leave you a little bit of time to ask any questions you may have.
I think Christine's reflection there, Leanne, well, it's just come down on my thing about understanding your risk appetite is definitely a big learning that I've taken away as well.
Yes. Yeah, interesting question there from Yoti. Can you have growth mindset without real humility? I think you can, because I've observed people who overplay their status. I've worked with leaders who overplay their status, and they feel that that's something that is required, that they lead, that they provide direction, that people look to them. You can, as you said, be a humble leader. And increasingly, I find that humility in leadership is an excellent trait, and it's getting a lot of research traction that it's a way forward. But I have also observed, to your question, quite fixed mindset, status-driven leaders adjust. So I think it can happen that we can modify behaviours. Please put other questions in the chat. Thanks, Christopher. It's important to ensure you take your team on the growth mindset. So this is the growth culture. The alternative culture is called the culture of genius, if you have a look at Mary Murphy's work. So that's exactly right. Thank you, takeaways, Brian. I did love that Brian also was using AI to help him to take notes today. So that's a great growth mindset approach that you've taken, Brian, today. And so if you read Brian's comments, they might be from his version of My Gavin. So I'm not sure, but they're very good. Any other final comments? How are we feeling? If you don't have questions or other comments, how are you feeling at the end of the conversation today?
Yeah, there is an interesting question here about, is there a difference between men and women when it comes to mindset that you've observed?
Yeah, great question. And there is research on this, and no, not really. The good thing about the human brain, even if you have neuroscientists who will, they used to work on cadavers, they can now do it with live people in fMRI machines. They often can't tell whether the person is a male or a female. So brains don't show up as one way or the other. So I would suggest that the more you practice this growth mindset, the more new neural synapses you're going to identify. So you'll have these new axons and dendrites forming new pathways. So that would demonstrate that the person is more of a growth mindset orientation than a fixed mindset orientation potentially. But it's not gender-based. It's about people.
Or age-based.
Or age-based. I've got a gorgeous story of the oldest lady in the world last year finally died, sadly, but she was 123, French woman. And she actually learnt the piano well into her 90s, and she was still very capable at doing, they'd hook her up with all of the electrodes, and she could do puzzles and problem-solving activities into her 120s. So, yeah, definitely not age limited.
There's a good one here from Karen.
Yeah.
How are other people navigating the environment of having a growth mindset when you are in the minority in the workplace?
Yes, exactly. And it'd be really good to hear from other people as well, because I'm not the entire guru on this. I think you've all had life experience. You may have even worked it through your family and friends to develop it as much as you've done it in the workplace. I think it's about leading by example. I think it's about really taking on the quest of wanting to create a culture of growth and to be maybe a leader of it, but even the whole idea around followship. If somebody else is even a better growth mindset mentor for people than you are, then you really hold them up high and enable them to try and influence that person. Because sometimes you'll get pushback from people who are below the executive level or in teams, and they're often long-serving, tenured, great contributing people. Maybe one of their peers could influence them more readily than you could. Anything else? Is that answering that question? Other ideas, please do share them so that you've got your own ideas.
It's just a question about how to navigate senior leaders when they're in a fixed mindset, or when they just don't have a growth mindset at all. Maybe they just don't have one.
Absolutely. Well, I think, as we said, it's not as categoric as don't have one. They've got a fixed mindset about that particular issue.
Yeah.
So I think it's worthy of a conversation. Hey, you can buy the book, you can send them a link to Mary Murphy speaking about it, and just say, we need to get on board with this. Being able to experience something that's challenging. And even if people are prepared to, those leaders that don't want it, they've got that culture of genius. They are the people who like an autocratic style. They like a hierarchical approach. They like to be the safe pair of hands. It's being able to say to them, current research in the last 5 years in particular is saying that engagement and growth and development and sustainability is coming through in the organizations that disseminate their knowledge across people. It's not about harboring it. It's not about keeping it in one person. So I know that would be a challenging conversation to have, but I invite you to use your growth mindset to take it on, maybe. Thank you, Fiona. Storytelling can help people understand, like I did, talked about personal challenges. You could demonstrate some of the personal. You could raise in a team meeting, hey, where do we see our fixed mindset showing up? Let's be honest about it, being vulnerable where you're fixed, and then being able to say, where are you growth? And then where could you maybe take a turn applying growth in a fixed area?
Final question. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cultural differences.
cultural differences. They of course will come in, Camille, because there are people who have very different values, beliefs, and these will drive their decision making and their behaviours and the way that they show up. So I think it's being knowledgeable about that. I've kind of ended here on the let's dial up our curiosity. I do think it's important that we are curious and we understand why people are showing up the way they are showing up. And yeah, we may not be able to move some of those because they're long held and linked to belief and culture. But if they are more up for grabs, then yeah, let's see if we can shift them.
Well, thank you, Leanne. And we've come to the top of the hour. So thank you so much for sharing your insights and experience with us all this morning. Just to remind everyone that the recording will be available on our website shortly. And Leanne, I think you're going to put up your contact details on the slide.
Yes, indeed, I will. And thank you.
So
everyone.
for any of you that would like to reach out to Leanne, she's very happy to hear from you, and there's her number and her email address. So thank you so much for joining us this morning, and we look forward to seeing you again in the next webinar in our series sometime soon. Thanks again, Leanne.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you, everybody. I really
Thanks for
appreciate your
joining us.
participation and wishing you all the very best. Take care.
Bye-bye.